Hey everybody, this is Shady here. So for today's video, I'm going to do something so brave, original, and creative. I'm going to show you my Nintendo Switch collection. Yes, believe it or not, I'm really changing the game with this one. Not only do I have a boring white background of my wall, but I'm going to show you my game collection. Yes, believe it or not. So the reason why I want to do this is because, I just really love the Switch, if I'm going to be very honest. I think it might be one of my favorite consoles of all time, crazy enough. I'm someone who's not even like the biggest Nintendo fan. I've enjoyed their stuff over the years, especially their handhelds. But yeah, the Switch just has had like banger after banger, pretty much from its release. Like when it released with friggin' Breath of the Wild to like, what, 6 years on, 6 years, I think, yeah, 6 years, over 6, I can actually say 6 years on now, yeah. Stumbling my words there, but you get my point. Yeah, so I've got like about 30 games here, I think it is, and I'm going to go through them all alphabetically. I'm just going to show you the games, give a brief overview, the usual thing. So we're going to start off. We have Astral Chain. So what is Astral Chain? So this is basically a Platinum Games hack and slash sort of action game, the sort of thing you would expect from them. But this one has kind of a few really interesting mechanics and twists to it. So first of all, it's called Astral Chain. I'll show you the back of the cover. Really cool looking thing. You have these things called astrals, which are these kind of like demon, kind of almost stand-ish type things that kind of battle with you, alongside you. And you have them on a chain. You can kind of control them. So obviously you're like this kind of police officer sort of person who has to kind of fight off these like demons and stuff. And then you use your astrals to fight them. You have a few different ones. You have like the sword one, the beast one, there's like the punchy one, and there's like some other ones, and you can sort of just switch between them. What I really love about this game is when it starts off, the combat seems like quite shallow, and you're like, what is going on here? But then the game really slowly introduces you to all the mechanics, and you realize this is like actually insanely deep. And you can even you control not only yourself but the astral, and you kind of have to juggle between the two, getting the balance right. And the main character has like a few different weapons, like a gun and a couple of different swords. It's really cool. You can even do this game co-op as well, which is kind of cool, with like a single Joy-Con each. Yeah, which is kind of insane when you think about it. Yeah, so someone can play as, the main character, and the other one can play as the chain, which is kind of the astral, so not the chain. Yeah, you can play as the chain. Kind of, I guess, in a way, because you're controlling the astral, so. But yeah, awesome game. One of Platinum Games' best. Still to this day a Switch exclusive. Definitely pick it up. Obviously, next up, we get Bayonetta 2, including Bayonetta 1. So, obviously, for those who don't know, Bayonetta 2 was a, obviously, sequel to Bayonetta, but it was a Wii U exclusive, or, well, still a Nintendo exclusive, I guess. And obviously, the Wii U didn't do very well, so this was one of the many games that get ported over. Unfortunately, it comes with a digital copy. You can actually get a physical copy of Bayonetta 1 now as well, which is kind of cool. It got like somewhat of a limited release on Switch. So yeah, you can hunt that down if you want. If you do get this one though, make sure you get a new copy so you get the digital code if you care. If not, just pick up the physical version of 1. It's really cool. Great game anyway. Those really cool nods to Devil May Cry and the Divine Comedy and that sort of stuff, which is great. Bayonetta is probably, in my opinion, one of the best hack and slash type game out there, or character action game. Really awesome stuff. And obviously, next up, we've got Bayonetta 3, which is the sequel. This one is obviously a Switch exclusive. This one's really cool because there's a lot of really cool nods to Devil May Cry 5 as well, because you've got like Viola. He's kind of meant to be like the Nero type character. You switch between 3 characters and you use them. Got a completely different design of Bayonetta. It's kind of really explained in the story. This game is awesome. It is amazing. It does something really cool where you have to you kind of do these almost like kaiju style battles. You control the massive like demon things as you're battling. Bayonetta will do these dances while the dudes attack. So you kind of have to, similar to kind of like how V works in a way, and in Devil May Cry 5 sort of thing, where you have to kind of consider their placement in line with the enemies before using those things. So they're really powerful, but Bayonetta is completely exposed and defenseless while doing it. So the only problem is, unfortunately, because it's on the Switch, it runs terribly, completely unlocked frame rate. It probably only locks to 60 when you're like not doing anything, pretty much, just stationary. Bit unfortunate, you do get used to it. But yeah, hopefully with the new Switch hardware, whenever that comes out, maybe next year, they'll be able to boost it and fix it up. But still a great game. Yeah, so the first three are basically all platinum games. Next up, Blasphemous. This recently got a sequel. I basically picked this one up because it was super cheap. This is basically a Metroidvania in the, you know, sort of with very similar stylings to a Souls game, essentially. Really great game. This is called a deluxe edition, but I think this is just the physical run anyway. You basically get like these little stickers, a poster, and like a code for the digital soundtrack. So really cool, awesome game, beautiful art direction. Like, just pick it up. I think I got this for like 15 or so quid for this physical copy, so really cheap. Pick it up. Next up, another great game, Metroidvania, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Obviously, for those who don't know, this was a Kickstarter done by what's his name, Koji Ishiragi, who obviously created Castlevania Symphony of the Night, one of my favorite games of all time. And this also does have the composer for that game as well. Obviously, this was like one of the great success stories of Kickstarter. Obviously, guy was no longer with Konami, wanted to continue making these types of games, got to do it. This game's awesome, by the way. The other thing is, obviously, I actually played this game on the PS4 originally, and then I just picked this one up because I found it really cheap. This version, unfortunately, has a few issues in terms of the performance, but it's not too bad. It's been improved with some patches and stuff, and I think they even have added some extra content and characters through patches with this game as well, which is kind of cool. Amazing game. Obviously, I still prefer Symphony, but it's still fucking awesome. Give it a go. Next up, one I picked up recently. This is actually still sealed because I literally got it this week. That is the Collection of Mana. The reason why I picked this up is because, for those who don't know, one of my kind of like bucket list type games is actually Secret of Mana. I've never played it, and I found this pretty cheap. This contains the first Mana game, Final Fantasy Adventure, which is it was called in the West. Weirdly enough, Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana. That was the first time that particular game got translated officially outside of Japan. Thing with that, they did the remakes of Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana, but I wanted to play the original one, so I picked this up. I found it for like 25 quid or something like that, so decent price. The main reason I got it though is because I was kind of afraid, while it's this cheap, if I don't pick it up, I bet it's going to be friggin' expensive sometime later on, so I picked it up. I do plan on giving this one a go though, but obviously we've got like Final Fantasy 16 pretty much around the corner, playing Street Fighter 6 at the moment, so you know, I will get to it eventually. Next up, a really cool game, the sequel to Deadly Premonition, Deadly Premonition 2, A Blessing in Disguise. So people who don't know, Deadly Premonition is basically this like really cool kind of cult type game that was on like the Xbox 360, and then it got a port to the PS3. I talked about this in the first one anyway, in a games to play during Halloween kind of video. So basically this game is like massively apes Twin Peaks, unapologetically, essentially. Like, yeah, it doesn't even like, you know, want to hide the fact. The guy who made these games has like a great sense of humor as well. This game is just so stupid, it's amazing. You're basically investigating a town. There's horror elements to it, but the real kind of the real good thing about this game, what makes it a gem, is being able to actually explore the town and interact with the different people in the town. You're gonna have a lot of fun with this game. If you're into like your kind of cheesy B-movie-esque horror, this is a really cool one. If you liked like the original Resident Evil and that sort of stuff, or just any of those sort of cheesy things, give that a go. You're gonna love it. Next up, Final Fantasy X HD collection. So obviously, Final Fantasy X is maybe one of the greatest games ever made. One of my favorite Final Fantasy games. Between this and 9, it's very hard to choose for me. But obviously this one, as you can see, it says download required. Unfortunately, you only get Final Fantasy X on the actual cart, and then 10.2 you have to download. So again, like I said with Bayonetta, make sure you buy a new copy if you care to, unless you find it really cheap. I mean, this was pretty damn cheap anyway. Final Fantasy X is just amazing. You play as Tidus and Yuna, as you see there. Tidus gets transported to a different time. He finds out that, well, he gets attacked by this giant whale flying in the sky called Sin. He wakes up and he's like 1,000 years in the future, and he has to figure out what the hell is going on, pretty much. This is an amazing game, beautiful looking game, amazing soundtrack, just great. And obviously I have another Final Fantasy game, the Zodiac Age. Final Fantasy XII was originally released on PS2, just like Final Fantasy X. This one's really interesting because this was the first kind of single player numbered entry to remove or to not have turn-based battles. Obviously 11 was an online game but didn't have it as well, so yeah, it couldn't really have online stuff, or it couldn't have turn-based for being online. So yeah, this kind of plays really unique in a way. So you have this thing called like the Gambit system. So basically you set the AI parameters of you and your party members, or the entire party I should say, and then they'll perform automatically in battle depending on the situations. And where you place the gambits prioritizes what you do. And also we're in the world of Ivalice, so this is within the same universe as the Tactics and the Vagrant Story game as well. So they're all set within Ivalice. I think this is the first one in terms of the timeline or something. I'm not 100% on that. Really great though. I love the game. It's also got like a massive giant open world, and you're free to explore a lot of places. It's really cool what you can do early on in this game. Like, that's one of the reasons why I love coming back to this game, just to do that sort of stuff. Great game anyway. Next up, Fire Emblem Engage. Obviously, this came out early this year. Pretty much, yeah, you know, classic sort of Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is basically like tactical strategy RPG sort of thing. We get to play as, obviously those are two characters there. You get to either be the male or the female version, and you're kind of like the hero who has to save the world pretty much. What's cool about this game is, you know, well, we're going to talk about the next one, but it strips out the elements of that one that I wasn't too fond of, and just makes it, like, you know, a bit better in my opinion. But yeah, really cool game. And obviously the one I was talking about was this one, which is Three Houses, Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is an awesome game, a pretty great game. You basically have these three different houses you get to choose between, and you follow their path pretty much, which leads to a certain different events, which adds cool replayability to it. But what's really interesting about this game is it kind of adds these almost Persona-esque type elements where you're a teacher at a school, and between missions you have to do all this stuff in the school where you interact with your students and all that stuff. I'm not really the biggest fan of that type of stuff. It's fine, and there's a lot of really cool character moments and stuff, which is awesome. And like just the random characters you have in your party actually have quite a bit of depth to them, more than you would expect in this type of a game, which is cool. But I don't know, to me it just gets a little kind of tedious at times. That's why I prefer Engage, because it kind of stripped down those elements and you can just get to the action, which is what I prefer really. But still an amazing game, don't get me wrong, and I still love it. Both awesome. It's just crazy to think that, you know, Fire Emblem has two amazing games on the Switch, so you can't really go wrong. Next up, another one I still haven't unsealed yet. I just want to pick up Front Mission First Remake. Again, like with Thingy, they basically announced this, and I was like, I should just pick this up, because I don't know if the copies are going to be around that long and whatnot. It was about 40 quid, I think, to buy it. The game was originally released December of last year, 2022. Only digital, so I skipped out on it. There was like a limited physical release, but it was ridiculously expensive and wasn't in the UK. But then thankfully they did a larger print run, which is this version. So I managed to pick this up. I bought this straight from Amazon, so it's available at other retailers as well. And this one gives you a few cool little bells and whistles. You get this lunograph, some like you know, cool little you know, art stuff, an actual game manual and everything. It looks awesome as well. For those who don't know, this is another kind of, I just dropped it. This is another cool strategy RPG, similar to Fire Emblem. This is like old NES game, sorry, Super Nintendo game. Just been upscaled with new visuals, basically. Really cool game. You use mechs called Onces, and you basically just you know, fight other ones. But it's very very hardcore, I'll just say that. Cool game though. Pick this up if you're interested anyway. I'm sure copies will probably still be available. It is an awesome game. Next up, we got Shmup Darius, or sorry, G Darius HD. So what is this? So obviously, for people who don't know, obviously Darius, or Darius, whatever you want to call it, is a shmup, side-scrolling shoot 'em up, where you're ship fighting other things, and basically, I think it was on PS1 and arcades. Shmups weren't quite as popular during the 90s, so this basically added these kind of cool 3D graphics to kind of spruce up the genre. So yeah, it's basically that. And you basically, what's cool about this version is you get the original actual arcade version, and you get like an updated kind of version as well. So yeah, if you're interested, and it also does still have the same slowdown and blah blah blah. It's like really accurate to the original arcade version, which is really cool for those interested. A bit annoying for some people who probably wanted some boost in performance and whatnot, but it's still really cool. Again, this was one I got really cheap, so just a great game. Next up, one of the biggest ones, Zelda Breath of the Wild. For those who don't know what this game is, I'm sure there's some people out there. I'm pretty sure everyone pretty much has bought this who owns a Switch. But yeah, this was basically, originally was called a Zelda Wii U, was the swan song to the Wii U, but then Nintendo kind of held it back because the Wii U wasn't doing very well, and they also decided to simultaneously release it for the Switch as well. This is basically a giant open world style Zelda game. You play, I think it's meant to be now in terms of the timeline, if anyone cares, it's like the first part of that timeline now or something. You're playing as Link, just reawakened, being kind of summoned by Zelda's spirit to try to take out Ganon pretty much, and then you just have this giant open world to explore. What I love about this game is you have like the Great Plateau, which is kind of the tutorial area. You learn everything you need to do, then you just dropped into the world and you just have fun exploring. It's really awesome. I've kind of managed to, it really feels like they took the original Zelda and like remade it to kind of our day sort of thing. So it's really cool anyway, I think. Next up, there was another Zelda game. Zelda Link's Awakening. This is actually a remake. Link's Awakening, for those who don't know, was originally the Game Boy game. It kind of added a lot of the really cool new elements to the Zelda games and the dungeons and stuff. There was also a DX version, which was an enhanced version for the Game Boy Color, and then obviously a full-blown remake for the Switch now. What's cool about this, for people who don't know, is this actually uses the Let's Go Pokemon Eevee and Pikachu engine sort of thing, which is cool. And yeah, it's just a great game. It looks very beautiful. It almost looks like a diorama or something. It's so cool. One I think old school and new Zelda fans will enjoy. Obviously, very, very different games, Breath of the Wild, but I still think you will enjoy it. It's a very tight-knit, small little adventure, really cool dungeons. Some of my favourite in the genre, in the Zelda series anyway. Great game. Next up, we have another Zelda game. If you can imagine that, Zelda Skyward Sword HD. So, Skyward Sword, for those who don't know, was originally a game released for the Nintendo Wii. It was like one of the last massive, or might have even been the last big release that Nintendo had for the Switch, or the Wii U, sorry. The Wii, oh my god, get it right. Yeah, and obviously that used like massive, or heavily used the motion controls, the Wii U, the Wiimote and Nunchuck. So obviously people were like, is that going to translate well? Like, will we ever get a port of this because of that? But no, they actually managed to figure out. So you can actually use the Joy-Cons to simulate the Wiimote and Nunchuck, and it does a decent enough job. I'd still say it works a little bit better on the Wii, but then they do also give you the awesome option to use dual stick controls, which is awesome. Works great either way. I still actually enjoy using it with the motion controls myself, but that's just me. What is awesome about this game is that it has this really cool kind of like, it looks almost like a friggin' painting or something. It's so beautiful. People are very hard up on this game. It was during the Wii era and the casual kind of era, so it is a bit easy in that regard, and Fi or whatever her name is, the companion, doesn't shut up. But it's fine. I still think it's a really good game and worth a try. For Zelda fans anyway, I'm sure they've played it anyway. So, and yeah, there is another one, believe it or not, one of the recently released Tears of the Kingdom. This is basically the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Probably going to be like the swan song to the Switch. I'm sure we'll still have maybe another big release from Nintendo, who knows. I think we're all expecting a new Switch next year, so this was kind of like, you know, the big Zelda game anyway. What I love about this game, basically just takes Breath of the Wild and pretty much improves everything. You can now explore the sky as well. You have an underground section. Your powers, in my opinion, are even better. You can do all this crafting and all this cool stuff. They really lent into that systemic stuff, which is what made Breath of the Wild awesome. And yeah, it's just a freaking great game. I'm sure basically every Switch owner's picked this game up, because I think it sold like 10 million or something like that in the first couple of days. So yeah, you guys know how great it is. Next up, Live Alive, or Live Alive, as I like to call it. What is this? So again, like with Premonition, this is basically a Super Nintendo game that's been completely redone in the 2D HD style, is what they refer to it as. This game, if you played Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, this was basically the like originator for that, or like what that is basically like the spiritual successor of Octopath Traveler, or of yeah, you know what I mean. Octopath is the spiritual successor of this. So in this game, we play as I think it's like 8 or so. I think there's actually 9. I think there might be another hidden one. Different people from different eras. You basically get about 4 to 5 hour little campaigns with each different character in a different setting. So you get like a kid who's a caveman who can't even speak, and you get this really interesting story who's trying to save this girl with his pet monkey. You get this dude in the Wild West has to defend this town. You get this robot who's just left distant future where there's nothing left. You get to play this guy who's trying to break out of this prison. There's so many really cool things in this game. And what's really awesome is each campaign or story is very different in terms of like its unique mechanics and stuff. There's a bit where you play as a samurai where it's like a fully stealth type game and stuff like that. Obviously the combat is like a 2D, it is a 2D game, and it is like a turn-based sort of RPG type game as well, which is cool. And what's awesome about this version is you even get the option for friggin' voice acting as well, which is really cool. Adds an awesome dimension to it. It's just a really awesome game. Give it a go. It is now available on PS4, 5 and Steam as well now, so definitely freaking give it a go. And what's funny is the creator recently said, if those versions do well, then we will probably get a sequel, hopefully. Basically trying to get people to like buy the game itself, which is really funny. But next up, let's talk about another game. Metroid Dread in particular. This is probably, I'm going to say, this is my favourite game on the system, by the way. This is basically Metroid 5. So for those who don't know, the Metroid kind of games are a little bit confusing. Obviously you have the original Metroid on NES, and its remake Zero Mission on the GBA, which is the first game. And then you had Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, which then obviously had a remake on the 3DS, Samus Returns. Metroid 3 is actually Super Metroid. Metroid 4 is Fusion, which is the GBA game. And then obviously Dread is Metroid 5. So those all are within the same kind of timeline sort of thing. But basically this game, play as Samus as always. She's arrived at this planet. There's like a distress signal or something. She has to fight off this enemy called the Emmy, which you can see on the back there. And she basically has to like fight for survival. Obviously this is a Metroidvania type game, but with these kind of like cool horror elements. It's called Dread for a reason, because you're really like, there's really cool tense moments where the Emmys are chasing after you and stuff. This is just an amazing game, man. It looks stunning, runs at a perfect like 60 frames a second and everything, because it's basically a side-scrolling kind of like, you know, Metroidvania type game. Or just Metroid, I guess we can call it, because it is the originator of that genre. But yeah, it's just a freaking amazing game. And then, yeah, we didn't just get one Metroid game, but we also got this Metroid Prime Remastered. This came out earlier in the year, I think it was, I can't remember exactly, maybe January time or something. But yeah, this is basically Metroid Prime 1 on the Game Boy / Wii, completely remade. It's the same game, but it just has like completely overhauled visuals. And it's so funny because they call this a remaster, but then you have the likes of Sony and whatnot who just update visuals and call games remakes. So this to me is basically a remake. I don't care what anyone says. But what's great about this is it brings Samus into fully 3D, and it's a first-person game. So it's a Metroidvania as you know it, but in the first person. And what's really cool is you actually see through her visor. So your HUD is essentially like Samus's visor. You can kind of see it there in that picture. And there's like really cool things like when it's frosty, you see like frost on her visor. You know, when she shoots a bomb and explodes, you get to see like a little bit of her face for a split second, which is so cool. And also what's great about this version is you basically get the option to play, you have 3 different control methods. So you can use the original GameCube controls, which use like kind of a single stick, and you couldn't move and shoot and the like. And then you get the option for the motion controls like the Wii version, where you can use the pointer and move and shoot and everything. And then you get a twin stick control, which is the new version for this, where it's a modern type FPS control scheme where you can move and shoot and move fully with the dual analogs and everything. It's a great control scheme. It's the one I used myself personally. I believe if you want to, with a great GameCube controller adapter, you can actually hook up a GameCube controller and like play old school on that if you want to as well, which is really cool. Just freaking awesome game. Pick it up. Okay, next up, another great game, an absolute freaking classic, maybe one of my favorites. Nier Automata, the End of Your Heart edition. So what is this? This is basically a port of Nier Automata on a Nintendo Switch. But obviously this is a dual cover. So obviously you do get the, just to show people, you do get the original cover, but I just like this sort of unique one. So basically this is Nier Automata. It's kind of like Definitive Edition. You get all the extra DLC and stuff that you did in the previous versions. And then on top of that, you get some extra costumes as well, which is kind of cool. I had to buy this because it released like, I think a day or 2 before my birthday. So I was like, yes, I need to buy this. Plus I got like another shirt with it. You've probably seen me wear that shirt in a previous video as well. It's friggin' awesome anyway. This is just a great game. If you don't know, this is done by Yoko Taro. This is kind of a sort of a sequel to the original Nier Replicant. It's a sequel to one of the possible endings or something like that. And we're living in a world where, like, you know, mankind have like abandoned humanity and it's just robots left on Earth, and they have to kind of continue the will of mankind sort of thing, to try to protect them from alien invasion sort of thing. But there's more to it than that. What's great about these games is you have, you do one playthrough and then you have all of these questions. And then you do subsequent playthroughs and then it answers them for you. It's so freaking cool. There's nothing like a Yoko Taro game. And as always, the freaking soundtrack's amazing. This game is actually full 1080p. Only 30 frames though. But still, it's near enough up to 30 frames. It's really good. Just a great game. Pick it up. You know, it's just an excuse to buy another copy of the game for me, really. Next up, one of my absolute freaking favorites, probably like, I don't know, my second favorite game on the Switch, Shin Megami Tensei 5. I even have the Steelbook, which is cool, which is what you got when you pre-ordered it. Also got like this little Jack Frost keychain as well, which is kind of cool. So, Shin Megami Tensei 5. For those who probably remember, this was like one of the first games announced when the Switch first was revealed. It took like 4 or 5 years to finally freaking come out. But when it did, it was amazing. So, obviously, for those who don't know, Shin Megami Tensei is kind of, you know, it's one of Atlus's main series. Some people probably know the spin-offs, the likes of Persona, or, you know, the Devil Summoner games and those sort of stuff. Soul Hackers 2, for example, is a spin-off to SMT. Basically, how these games work, the mainline ones anyway. You're the main hero. The world is going to end or has ended, and then you basically decide what side mankind get to take when the world is reborn. So you can either take the side of law, which is the side of God, chaos, which is the side of the devil, and then neutral, which is kind of like the side of mankind sort of thing. And then, yeah, choices and stuff you make determine what happens and the ending you get sort of thing. But obviously, that's just a part of the story. The main thing is you get to collect loads of demons. So you don't have traditional party members like you do in other JRPGs. You just have your main character, the Nahibino, as he's called in this game, who's this kid who like fuses with this other demon, and then they become this Nahibino. And then you capture demons like Pokemon-esque. Even though technically it was before Pokemon, I know, before anyone said that. yeah, you catch these different creatures and then they fight alongside you. So you can have 3 other demons in battle with you, so that's 4, and then you have some reserve ones. And the whole point is about like, it's not like a lot of other games where you capture 1 or 2, you know, like in Pokemon, and you just train them and use them for the whole thing. No, you have to actually fuse them into more powerful ones and catch other ones. Well, I say catch, you actually negotiate with them. You have to talk to them and like get them on your side to join you. And then that's kind of how you build your party. Like, typically how it works is you'll obviously, you get to a boss, and then you basically have to build a specific party to get past that boss. That's basically the best way to describe it. These games are typically like brutally difficult when it comes to these sort of RPGs. These games are great for like veteran JRPG fans anyway. Highly suggest this one. There's kind of been this weird thing where, like, I remember when this game came out, people were being very harsh on it, saying it was not very good. I know a lot of people say that about everything. You know, some people are just a bit weird like that. I mean, each to their own. You're entitled to your own opinion, but I think it's friggin' amazing in my opinion. I love it, and I think you should play it. I really do hope it's on the Switch right now. The only annoying thing is the frame rate. I know I've said this a lot. But yeah, it aims for 30 frames, but it barely ever hits it at all. And it just makes the game, you get used to it, but it's just, I just want to play it at higher frame rate. And I really hope, because this year, 2023, is the Shin Megami Tensei 30th anniversary. So I'm really hoping we get a port to the likes of PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. I'm probably hoping for too much, but I really do hope that's the case. But anyway, moving on. Next up, Shovel Knight. So, Shovel Knight, for those that don't know, this was like a pretty big kind of, one of the first big kind of retro revival indie games. This is essentially like an 8-bit style kind of adventure, platformer-y type of game. Playing as this knight with a shovel, and you like fight these dudes. What's cool about this version, this is basically like the ultimate version of the game in physical copy. So obviously you get the all those characters you see on the top there. So it's not just Shovel Knight, but you get all the other characters you can play as, and each one has their own little adventure and their different ways of playing and stuff. Really awesome game. This game's like released on most modern platforms, but I think if I'm correct, this physical version is like the ultimate version of it anyway. So pick that up. Next up, obviously, what would a Nintendo system be without Mario games? So we have Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. So again, this is another one of those games that was ported from the Wii U. This was like, in my opinion, my personal favorite Mario game, personally, 3D one anyway. What this game does, for those who don't know, it's basically a 3D version of classic Mario. That's the best way to describe it, really, right? So you have the 2D Mario games where you have to basically get from point A to point B, you know, hit that flagpole. This game basically takes that aspect but puts him into a 3D environment. Each level is so cool and unique. You have the 8 worlds, different stages, fight a boss at each one, like you would in classic Mario. But what this game does is it adds this extra thing, Bowser's Fury, which is kind of like, it's almost like this strange kind of like, I think it's almost like a tech demo for what we can expect from the next Mario game. Basically, you're in kind of this open area where everything is seamless, and you travel between islands and do the levels. And you basically have at intervals, you have this giant Bowser that comes out of the sea and starts attacking you, and you have to become this giant Mario thing and fight it like kaiju style. It's a really freaking cool thing. I think it's only about a 5-ish hour game from what I remember, but it's just some added content to what was already a great game. Also, Mario 3D World, it does one really cool thing where it increases Mario's movement speed, so it makes the game flow a bit better. Also, it does allow for full player co-op as well, 3D World. And Bowser's Fury allows for like a 2-player mode, I think, or something. One player controls Bowser and the other one controls Bowser Jr. sort of thing. So, cool game. Yeah, can't really go wrong with that one. Next up, Super Smash Bros. Yes, Ultimate. So, this is basically just the Ultimate version of Smash Bros. So this is the Switch version. You just have a shitload of characters, pretty much. Like, I can't even remember how many characters there are. Like, this is, I think it's like 50 characters, and that's just the starting roster. Then you have all the DLC characters. Yeah, this is great because not only do you get like tons of Nintendo characters, obviously it's a fighting game, but then you get characters from other things as well. Like you can have like Ryu, Ken, Snake, freaking Cloud, Bayonetta. Who else is in this? Pac-Man. Yeah, and so on and so forth. Sonic as well. Forgot about that one. So yeah, if you wanted to ever see Mario and Sonic fight, this is the game for you. Obviously, Smash Bros. Lets you do up to 8-player battles as well. Like it's kind of like this. It's a 2D battle system. You know, you pit the characters against each other, but the whole point is about knocking the player off the pitch. So you do damage. You increase their little gauge, and then you can knock them further and further as they take more damage, sort of thing. Yeah, it's a great game anyway. What I love about this game is you can play it casually, but there's a lot of depth in there. So if you want to actually like properly get good at this game, you can. You can put a lot of hours into it. It's a great game. Yeah, awesome. Next up, obviously, another RPG, which is what I love. This is Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE. You're probably wondering, what the hell is this? So basically, again, this was another Wii U port. This was basically a crossover between Shin Megami Tensei, which backwards, you know, SMT backwards is TMS, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and Sharp FE means Fire Emblem. So best way to describe this game, it's basically Persona with the art direction of Fire Emblem, and the class system of Fire Emblem. So it's a, you know, it's your standard kind of turn-based RPG like Persona, battle system-wise and everything, but then you have those Fire Emblem elements. Really cool looking character design and everything. What's cool about this game is you're playing as this kid who's like managing these idol singers and actresses and stuff. And there's like these really cool kind of really funny things where they like to basically be able to become or to have the confidence to be able to do certain things like, you know, sing a song or whatever. You have to do these missions with them. They have to fight off these enemies and then it allows them to. It's really funny. Yeah, it's a great game. The soundtrack is amazing as well. You know, I guess it depends if you're really into that sort of stuff. Maybe this might be a bit too much of a weeby type game for you or not. I don't know. I really friggin' love it though. One thing I really like about this game as well is, see, I do love the Persona games, but this really strips those elements down a lot more for me, which is what I like. Like Persona is amazing, but the visual like novel stuff is very prevalent. Whereas this game kind of doesn't have as much as that, but puts a bit more into the gameplay wise and stuff, and has some really cool dungeons and stuff. Really cool, like kind of the levels are kind of always based around a particular villain, similar to like, you know, like the palaces in Persona 5 and stuff. But yeah, really great game. Still to this day, just Nintendo exclusive. One thing to note is this is actually a this does have only Japanese dialogue, by the way, with English subtitles. But obviously the reason for that is because, you know, they're all idol singers. I think the ones singing, the voice actresses / actors are actual, like, I think idols from Japan. So they have loads of cool songs and stuff. I think you really love it as well. Yeah, I just can't speak highly enough of this game. Just freaking pick it up. It's great. Next up, got two last ones anyway. Before I talk about them though, I just want to explain. Obviously, you're probably thinking certain games are missing, blah, blah, blah. That's because I have like digital copies of certain games. So obviously, when I picked up my Switch, I got the bundle that came with Super Mario Odyssey. So my version of Odyssey is actually a digital copy. Also, my copy of Mario Kart 8 is also digital as well. And obviously I've got tons of other ones like that as well. Don't really want to go too much into that, but next up, anyway. Xenoblade Chronicle Definitive Edition. So, basically, this was originally a game on the Wii, if you can believe that. And it's basically like a giant friggin' open world JRPG. It's basically like a single player MMO. That's the best way to describe it. And you play as the character Shulk, and he's basically fighting off against these creatures called the Mechon, who are like these kind of robot kind of monstrosities with consciousness and stuff, and you're fighting against them. And you're actually on top of, you see this thing here, I think it's called the Bayonetta. You're basically on this thing. That's where you live, and that's how big it is. And there's like two of them. And that sword is the thing, the key to hopefully defeating the Mechon and changing the war. But yeah, this game is really freaking awesome. The only thing is, obviously, you have to be into these types of games. The environments are massive. There's a lot to do in them. Hundreds of freaking hours. You could probably easily get freaking 500 hours out of one of these games. Yeah, so it depends how heavily you're willing to want to invest time into a game. If you just want one freaking game, get a freaking Xenoblade games. Get a Xenoblade game anyway. Also, I think this version, yeah, it did actually add an extra DLC thing. Also, what's different is basically when the Wii, the friggin' Switch first came out, they did Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then obviously the first game was original on the Wii, and then had a 3DS port. So obviously they decided to bring it over to Switch, but then they redid it in the engine of 2 with that sort of art style. So this has the more kind of anime style of the newer 3 games, for the newer games on the Switch. But yeah, really cool. Great game. I no longer have my copy of Xenoblade 2. I need to rebuy it. I pretty much picked it up when it was first out, and then I traded it. But I will get it again. But what I do have is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is the last game on my list. This was basically, released last year, kind of came as a surprise to all of us. They basically just announced it and said, yes, it's coming out in a few months. And yeah, it's friggin' amazing. What's great about this game is obviously the first one, you play as 3 characters. And in this one, you have 6 characters. And you can basically control them all at once. It's like the only RPG I can think of where you have that many characters. They are a little spongier than they are in the other game. And one thing I haven't really explained is the actual battle system itself. So obviously, like I said, these games are basically single player MMOs. So positional based battles and rotations and cooldowns are a thing in the battle system. So how it works is obviously you see enemies freely around the zone. You approach them, and then your attacks have to basically be based on positions. So let's say if you're more of a tanky character, you'll want to be attacking from the front. DPS type ones you want to be doing from the side to the back. Your tanks, your healers, you want to be hanging back and just, supporting the roles and stuff like that. You really have to understand your roles. What's cool about this one is characters can all use different, change their jobs or the roles, classes, whatever it's called in this game. It's always called something like that in these games, isn't it? And then they can kind of, learn each other's things, and you can kind of have like, I think, hybrid type classes and stuff. Really, really cool. What is also amazing is this game it might be one of the best looking games on the Switch. It's a giant open world game, and it's near enough a locked friggin' 30 frames a second. One thing they do though, to be able to achieve that, is it uses a very kind of aggressive, dynamic resolution system. So when you're playing on a TV, it won't be quite as noticeable, but when you're playing in handheld mode, it does get quite low resolution ones. So my Switch Lite or handheld Switch only people, you might find that a bit kind of hard to look at times, but it's fine. It's a friggin' amazing game, so really can't go wrong there. But yeah, anyway, that's it for my Switch collection at the moment. Yeah, it's not the biggest collection, but it's my own, and I really like it. Yeah, and obviously I'll be buying more games for the system because it's freaking amazing. From what I know, we are still expecting Metroid Prime 4 at some point. That should probably be the last really big release for the Switch. I'm hoping we get the other 2 Prime games at some point. So hopefully I'll be able to add those even more to my collection as we go on. But anyway, hope you guys got something out of this video, enjoyed it in some way. You at least got my takes on these games, I suppose. So that's something maybe. But yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day. And subscribe, if you want to. You're not forced to, obviously. Yeah, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.